The Hate You Give, the fourth most challenged book of 2018. Hello, my name is Joseph Griffin, and today I'm here to explain why The Hate You Give was challenged and banned across the United States. I'll be explaining why this is an example of the inappropriate use of censorship. First, I'd like to start with a quote by Salman Rushdie. He says, "What is the freedom of expression? Without the freedom to offend, it ceases to exist." Now, as you'll see throughout this presentation, this book offended a lot of people. But what you'll also see is expression. You'll see why this book impacted so many people and encouraged the world to improve for the better. Now, what is The Hate You Give? The Hate You Give is a novel written by Angie Thomas. It was published in 2017 and written as a reaction to the Oscar Grant shooting. It's a young adult fiction youth novel, and it grapples with issues that some of the population of the world still find themselves experiencing today. Racism, police brutality, and finally that urban and Black identity. Now I'm going to go into basic information, reviewing the story, major themes, and characters. This book tells the story of Star Carter. She's a 16 African-American girl who lives in Garden Heights, which is a predominantly African-American neighborhood. Now, she transfers to Williamson Prep, which is a predominantly white high school. This transferring isolates herself from her community, and in the beginning of the book, we find herself at a party, but she doesn't know anybody because she transfers schools and she doesn't reconnect with her community. Now, Khalil, her childhood friend, arrives at the party and offers to take her home. While he's driving, he gets pulled over, and after an altercation with the cop, he gets murdered. Now, throughout this story, there's a careful balance between school star and Garden Heights star, a theme that I'll explain later on in the presentation. However, at the end of the book, she ends up testifying on behalf of Khalil, giving over to fully fighting for African American rights. Now, like I said earlier, a major theme in this book is code switching. We see two stars, Garden Heights star and Williamson Prep star. Now, while Star was in Garden Heights, her dad was a drug dealer, and after he gets arrested, he transfers his children to another school. We find her navigating this role as a sense of royalty in the community because of the position her father had. However, we also see this sense of isolation where she doesn't know anybody and she struggles to make new friends because she's transferred school. However, we also see Williamson Prep Star. Williamson Prep Star is quieter, shyer because of the social standards that are placed upon her as a person of color. She doesn't speak out. She doesn't argue because she'll be seen as the angry Black woman. Now, according to ALA.org, The Hate You Give was banned because it was deemed anti-cop and it had profanity, drug use, and sexual references. A specific example is the superintendent of Katy Independent School District removing the multiple award-winning book from all the schools in the library in the district. Another example is in Springfield, Missouri Middle School, where someone compared it to almost an indoctrination of distrust and police, and we've got to put a stop to that. That's what a person said in Springfield, Missouri. Now, reasons why they could have said that, I have two references. The first, it says, when the Khalils get arrested for selling drugs, they either spend most of their life in prison, another billion-dollar industry, or they have a hard time getting a real job and probably start selling drugs again. That's the hate that they're giving us, baby. A system designed against us. That's thug life. Now, this quote was provided by Star's father, who was in the drug industry and then got arrested, and he's lived in both worlds. And he's explaining a system, a real system that we still find ourselves experiencing today. However, many Americans find themselves pushed away from this theory because of what their government is telling them. And this is something that's broken because of this book. This is something that people don't really want you to know about, so they try to push it underneath the rug and censor the book. Another reference that they might be referring to is "The hate you give little infants F's everybody." Now, this was a quote by the rapper Tupac, and it was Khalil's last comforting thoughts to Star while they were driving home. It represents a larger problem between African Americans and people of color and the urbanized relationships with the police that are found across the country. Khalil is trying to impart into Star that the hate that the people in charge give little African American and people of color infants messes up with everybody because those people grow up inside a system that the police have created. Again, The government is a place that has been against African Americans for a long period of time, and this book is attempting to show the audience that. However, because of these two quotes, it was found censored across the nation. This book shouldn't be banned because it demonstrates a larger problem that we still find ourselves occurring with today. Police brutality, crime in urbanized areas, and gang relations are problems that haven't been solved. This book also covers a multitude of other issues, social stigmas that Star finds herself experiencing, code switching that so many people in the book find themselves experiencing and using as a means of integrating themselves into a society that doesn't like them. We also see poverty in urbanized area and the effects that it has on multiple people in the community. Now, I'd like to close with a quote. This is what Star says at the end of the book once she protests the injustice that Khalil was received after being murdered. Everybody wants to talk about how Khalil died, I say. But this isn't about how Khalil died, it's about the fact that he lived. His life mattered. Khalil lived. I look at the cops again. You hear me? Khalil lived. Now, at the end of this book, when Star receives the news that the police officer who murdered Star won't receive any repercussions for his actions, she goes out and she protests, which is the climax of the book, and it shows that she's really fully giving over to the side of fighting for African American rights. This book was used as a means of educating an audience through words and telling a story about the harmful effects of police brutality and racism, effects that we still continue to see today. This book was an attempt to show an audience how to improve their society. I hope you understand what I was saying throughout this message, and I hope that you take something from this presentation with you as you leave. Thank you so much for listening. Again, my name is Joseph Griffin, and my presentation was on The Hate You Give and why it was censored and banned.